Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here in the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. 96 degrees today. Whew. Beautiful sunset, though. Man, that was incredible out there. It's August the 15th, 2019. We're the folks who believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. God made the world in 6 days, just like he said he did. That's the only way it works. The animals require the plants require the animals. Hello, they can't evolve separately. There's million symbiotic relationships that cannot be explained by the dumb evolution theory. And we believe that evolution, as it's being taught in our school system illegally at taxpayers' expense, is the dumbest and most dangerous religious cult in the history of the world. Okay, bring your group down to Dinosaur Adventureland. We have lots and lots to do here and adding stuff all the time. We decided, since the scooter sits there all the time, I love driving that thing. It's a 2010. Someone bought it for me. I forget. It's only got 6,400 miles on it. It's like brand new. We're going to sell it. Somebody said, Hovind, somebody's going to want it just because you drove it. I don't know about that. I'm not. What do you think? Does that make it more?
Yeah. I'd add $1,000 just for that.
Did make it worth add $1,000 just for that? Probably worth about $5,000 on the street. But anybody wants to buy my scooter? It's a 650 Bergman. I was coming back from Mobile, and there was a black Harley motorcycle group cruising down the interstate. So I pulled right into the middle of them. They're all looking at me and pointing. They sped up to 100 miles an hour. I stayed right with them. Finally, they gave some kind of signal, and they all turned off on an exit, and I don't know. I came home. Anyway, it'll really fly. It's a great, perfect condition. If you want to buy a good Suzuki Bergman 650 scooter, it's only got 6,400 miles, please. We have sad news. Our Jackson chameleon died. Ate a poisonous insect or got too hot, we don't know, but we're going to save him, preserve him in a jar of formaldehyde so he can be available for everybody to see. So Rich, I found something that you need to build. You see the Jackson chameleon, what he looks like? Here is Rich's chameleon.
Awesome.
Vice grips and bolts welded on there. I think that would be very appropriate.
10 minutes, I'll do it right now.
You could, no, 10 minutes? Okay.
I'll go downstairs, I'll make it by the time.
No, I do want one for the museum, though, like our Junkosaurus we have out front. Teachers, bring your students for a field trip. Oh, here he is, right here. Another one bites the dust. Oh, poor guy. Get it where you can see in the camera there. Okay. Anyway, 3 horns. Wonder what he would look like if he got to be about, 20 feet long. Huh. Okay. Bring your students for, I thought that was my drinking water for a minute. I thought, we need a plumber. Yeah, I think we got some coming Monday, so praise God. But if you want to come spend a couple days here, we got a lot to do. Brother, you've seen the list to do around here. You showed up in your camper, 2 days ago? And then been working ever since, 3 days ago. It's a blessing here. What a blessing. Okay, 65 baptized so far. Might have one tomorrow. I'll find out here tonight. For the month of August, please tell everybody to contact their social media group and say, look, would you subscribe to the YouTube channel? Or join our 777 club. We tell more friends about us, okay? We want every kid in public school to have information to rescue them from the dumb theory of evolution. So we have a creation seminar series, which and the reasons evolution is stupid, and all the books to help them in public school. The books are normally what, $7 each? I don't. Yeah.
7 times 5 plus 50 for the seminar series.
It's a real bargain, okay? Anyway, we want to help win souls. That's what we're in it for. I saw a cool sign. Stupidity is not a handicap. Park elsewhere. We need one of those here. Lawyers believe a man is innocent until proven broke. Prayer, the best wireless connection. I like that. Good way to get connected. Okay, anyway. If you'd like to help us stay open for free, join our 777 club. Go to drdino.com. And we're asking folks, if they can, give $1 a day. $31 a month. Join the club. Keep us open so we can keep winning souls for the Lord. Make any checks to CSE. Okay, tonight it is time, with the red shirt on, to whack an atheist again. I'm surprised anyone can call themselves an atheist. Stop and think about that. I can understand them calling themselves agnostic. They don't know, not a believer. But an atheist says there is no God. There's no possible way they could know such a thing. You cannot know that. You can believe that, which is why it's your religion. Anyway, we're going to talk about DNA evolving. Now, I've done several on Rachel Oates. How many remember some of the ones we did on poor Rachel? She's still going. Rachel, you really need to stop. Okay, I'm watching this. She said Hovind never responded to video number 3. Okay, so Rachel, I'll go back and pick up parts of part 3. Part 5, she did 2 days ago, is about you're being brainwashed, obviously. God did it. She's referring to my book, which has a new cover now. Are you being brainwashed by your science book? Yes, Rachel, you really got a bad dose of brainwashing from your accredited university. So she said I did not cover her part 3. Back to basics about DNA. And I went through one of mine some time ago and said, is this the Rachel we're debating, or this one? Or is it this one? Or 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 maybe it's this one. Which Rachel is it we're talking about here? She said, well, I dye my hair, and if you don't like it, get over it. I don't care. Dye your hair all you want, Rachel. Okay, I'm just pointing out. I think it's interesting. Okay, maybe it's this one. No, actually, I think it's this one tonight we're going to talk to. Rachel, you make fun of me for clipping out pictures of you on your... You started this. One of yours has obviously a photoshopped in picture of me, as if I'm saying, it will be better for the world if you died, as if I'm saying that to you. This is outright dishonest, Rachel. Of course, if you're an atheist, no such thing as honesty, is there? But I've never said it'd be better if you died. I'd like to see you get saved. So Rachel says in her part 3 that Kent Hovind says science textbooks are lying about nearly everything. Oh no, Rachel, I love science. We got a science center right here. We have lots of cool science experiments. We like science. And the science books are wonderful in almost many things that they teach. I taught physical science, earth science, biology. I like water. But if somebody put 3 drops of arsenic in there, I would be skeptical of drinking the water. I don't think I want that. There's a lot of good science in the books. I'm not saying the books are lying about everything. Don't lie about me, Rachel. I never said that. You said, however, the problem is Kent doesn't understand basic science. And you talk about my meaning of the word evolution. I'm going to play her speaking here in a second. Steve, I'll need help setting that up. But I go through the 6 different meanings of the word evolution, and there are 6 different meanings. Cosmic evolution, chemical, stellar, organic, macroevolution, where an animal changes to a different kind. Nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog. 339 recognized breeds of dogs divided up into 10 groups. The hunting dogs, the stupid dogs, the dumber yet dogs, and I don't know how they divide them. But the long-haired dog, short-haired dog, but it's still a dog. And you'll never get outside the dog kind. And we usually have a 4 or 5-year-old at my seminars when I speak. I'll say, okay, kid, here we have a dog, a wolf, a coyote, and a banana. Which one is not like the others? Mackenzie? Dog, wolf, coyote, or banana? Which one is different? The banana. You're 5, right? Whoa. You must have got your brains from your mom, right? The Bible says they will bring forth after their kind. So Charlie Darwin wrote a book and called it The Origin of Species. Now, what exactly is a species? I don't think they have a good solid airtight definition. They're changing them all the time. But we'll get into that another time. Then there is what's called microevolution, variations within the kind. Now, this one happens. The first 5 are purely religious. You have to believe on that. And we'll cover much more on that on our video number 4. Here's a mama cat, had very different babies. One mama, all different color babies. How did that happen?
Still has retractable claws.
Still got retractable claws. Dogs don't, right? Anyway, another story. The teachers are told to stress the earth is billions of years old. Rachel, I like science. I think we should be teaching science. Science is systematized knowledge. You do not know there's no God. You do not know any animal has ever produced a different kind of animal. You don't know that. You can believe that if you'd like, but that's not something you could possibly know. We've never observed a dog produce a non-dog. Nobody has ever. Kent Hovind tells us he doesn't think vestigial structures don't exist ever in any animal ever. Okay, Rachel, let's play you saying this. Then we're going to talk about some of the amazing DNA molecules that you think happen by chance. From nothing. Humans have 46 chromosomes, right? with these little base pairs going across. Anybody want to guess how many of those rungs of the ladder are on a DNA molecule?
Did you say like millions?
Humans have about 2 billion. Happened by chance. That's the little bitty rungs on the ladder going across this long twisted ladder. There's an animal called the lungfish that has 133 billion billion base pairs. Happened by chance, according to Rachel. And then there's the lowly amoeba. Guess how many an amoeba can have? I mean, the chromosomes in a single-celled amoeba is really tiny, okay? In the nucleus are the chromosomes. There's an amoeba that has 670 billion base pairs on its chromosome. You really think that happened? Arranged itself by chance. You really need some help. I'm here to help. I'm here. Yes, ma'am.
And that's a simple life form.
That's how we came from that. Yeah. The discovery of DNA as a double helix is a hallowed story of scientific triumph. The work of 4 researchers merging together to solve one of science's biggest mysteries, giving birth to what we know as the field of modern genetics. But decades later, we are still learning that DNA is a more furiously complicated piece of biological machinery than we ever knew. Yeah, Rachel. And then you accuse me of saying mutations are permanent changes to the sequence, or you said the mutations are permanent changes to the sequence of DNA. Changing the sequence of the DNA, CATG, parts to it, can radically change things. You can take a simple sentence. There's a sentence that contains every letter in the alphabet. Does anybody know what that simple sentence is?
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. We can change just a few letters. The quiet brown box bumps over the crazy hog. I bet we could compare and find, boy, there's a lot of similarities, aren't there? Totally different meaning. Completely different. Changing 1 or 2 base pairs in a DNA can totally change whether it works or not, first of all, and totally change the function and the meaning of it. So let's get to Rachel and let her play what she was saying here. Okay, Rachel, this is your part 3 that you accused me of missing, and I am sorry. I don't watch all your stuff. Matter of fact, I rarely watch any of your stuff. When you pick on me, I have to say, look, I have the right to defend myself. This is America, the land of the free and the home of the slave, and you have a right to defend yourself for now. So here's Rachel talking about me and my brainwashed book. Are you being brainwashed by your science book? Rachel, you really did get a bad case of brainwashing by your accredited university. Here we go.
Lying to us. I say he is lying about them lying. He says I am lying about him lying about them lying.
What?
It's lieception here. It's all kicking off. It's craziness. Let's just jump into the video. If you've not seen the first 2 videos in this series, I thoroughly recommend you go check them out. I'll link them below. But if you do want to skip them for whatever reason, because you know, I can get a bit boring, I guess, a little bit rambly. Here's a summary. Kent Hovind says science textbooks are lying about nearly everything.
Rachel, I've never said that. Yeah. Why would you say that? I've never said that. Stop. Think about it.
However, the problem is, Kent Hovind doesn't understand basic science.
Well, then call for a debate, Rachel. With your accredited university degree, why don't you call 855-BIG-DINO extension 2 and say, Rhonda, I want to debate Kent Hovind live on my channel. I'll come on that channel, no problem. Half my brain tied behind my back. 3/4 maybe in this case. Okay.
That's pretty much it. That's all we talked about for 2 videos. And we're going to do it for a 3rd, because I must be a masochist. We are currently at the point in the book where he's going through a series of lies that he thinks that textbooks tell us, mostly to do with evolution, because he doesn't believe in evolution. As we saw in the first video, he has a really weird, warped definition of what evolution actually is.
That's where I give the 6 different meanings to divide it up. So they want to give examples of microevolution and try to make you think that proves the whole theory. This is sneaky. This is how they do it, though. They've been doing it for, 100 years now.
Go watch that if you've not seen it already. It's kind of ridiculous. Oh, Hariri's making her bed again, aren't you? We are kind of stepping things up a little bit in this video because we're finally reaching the stuff that, you know, unlike Kent, I actually studied pretty in depth at an accredited university.
Ooh-wee. Now I'm scared. Wow. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, learn the exact same thing that she learned in college.
Right. It used to be in high school. It used to be in
I
eighth
don't
grade.
have an accredited degree.
Yeah, they used to learn stuff in eighth grade. Now it's university. Okay, that's a different story. Okay.
So this is the stuff that I know about, the kind of genetics, the cell biology, the human biology, this kind of aspect of it. Last time we were talking a lot about like some geology bits and stuff like that, which is not my area of expertise. This stuff, I still wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm
Boy, me neither, Rachel.
nowhere near the level of some incredible people.
Have those incredible people call me. I'll be glad to debate them too. Them and you together. It's not that I'm smarter, it's that I'm right and you know it. God made all this stuff. Wait till you see the complexity of the DNA in a minute here, but go ahead.
But this is what I know. This is what I studied at university. Yeah, it's kind of my thing. And the final thing I want to address before we like jump into reading any of the book itself. I know, I'm sorry, lots of admin at the beginning and it'll get boring, right? But the final thing I want to discuss is that Kent has been making some video responses to me, and I'm aware these exist, but I've not watched them yet. Actually, I tried to watch a bit of like his first one, it got kind of boring, and he can make 2 more since then. Anyway, I'm aware that they exist. I've not seen them. So before any of Kent's fans come at me with any more Christian love, so loving.
By the way, some of the stuff people are writing on her website against her YouTube channel, is pretty nasty. Stop. They're not my fan. They might be my fans, but I can't help that. But they don't represent me, Rachel. I don't curse and swear like some of these guys did. Don't blame me for that, okay?
I will say this now. I'm going to continue making these videos about the book as I have planned them and researched them and already like basically not scripted but like bullet pointed them out what I want to talk about. I'm going to keep making these videos as planned. I'm not changing that. I'm not responding to Kent straight away. I've already said I'm not going to debate him, but at the end of this series of videos I may look at his responses and then make one final response to his responses, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You're so gracious. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
But I'm not going to get into a back and forth on every video with him because I think that's a waste of everyone's time.
I agree. This is all a waste of time. The whole evolution theory is a waste of time. Stop it. It does absolutely nothing for anything of any good to the universe or to... What a useless theory. It takes up textbooks. But they cut down trees to print that stuff in the books. We could save millions of trees by just eliminating the evolution religion out of the science books. It's got nothing to do with science. Nothing.
But yeah, like I say, if there is a response to his responses to me, responseception, it's not going to be before I'm done dissecting this book and the bad science in it.
You're going to dissect my book and the bad science in it. I think you're 0 for 7 so far, Rachel. I think I've covered my stuff pretty well, but we'll continue.
Because I want that to be the focus. And I don't want this series to devolve into what he has already tried to make it, which are his like childish cries of like, oh my god, I'm like Kate's destroying her, and then him spell.
What she said?
Destroys Rachel, and I misspelled it. You misspelled her name, right? It wasn't me. But we fixed it. Rachel, it was not intentional. There's much easier things to make fun of, okay?
Spelling my name wrong and yeah. So where we are in Kent Hovind's Are You Being Brainwashed book is at lie number 7, which is where Kent tells us he doesn't think vestigial organs or structures exist in any animal ever.
I've never said that, Rachel. There are quite a few vestigial structures that are indication the creature can no longer use it. You could get a broken arm where your arm is no longer usable, and it's done for your lifetime. But think about it. Even if there were some vestigial structures, that's the opposite of evolution. You need to be gaining things, not losing things. Is this how evolution works, Rachel? You lose a bunch of stuff until you finally have it all? You should run for Congress. You could help them guys borrow their way out of debt.
There's a lot in this. And I don't actually want to focus on the vestigial organs bit for this. I want to focus on one really interesting line he says. It's kind of a sarcastic comment on the claim that he's making, where he says, by the way, even if there were vestigial organs, there are not. Isn't that losing something, not gaining something? Is that how evolution works? You lose things until you have everything? And I really wanted to talk about this and focus on it because, again, it's a blatant misunderstanding of what the whole process of evolution is.
Have you noticed them saying that over and over? You don't understand what evolution is. How many have seen that? They make that comment, you don't understand it. Oh, it's quite the opposite. We completely understand what you're trying to get across. You're trying to snowball this, make everybody believe this with smoke and mirrors. I think we completely understand. That's not the problem.
For one thing, there's no conscious effort behind evolution. It's not a definite progression in one way or another to lose or gain things. There's no ultimate goal with it. It's just a series of changes. Sometimes random mutations happen, and sometimes those mutations result in genes being expressed differently.
Can you give an example, any example, Rachel, any example of these random mutations adding new information that changes the population? See, wouldn't you have to get, let's suppose you got an amoeba and it wants to grow a leg, a couple of legs, and learn to walk. Don't you have to have something for it to marry or interbreed with to make, and now they got to kill all the other amoebas for the new one to survive and thrive. The religion of death, we covered that on video number 5. Continue here.
And every so often, those gene expressions are useful to an organism in the environment that it's living, and those organisms will be more.
Would you please give an example of that, Rachel? What is the best 3 examples you know of any organism having a mutation that makes it better adapted to its environment? I can understand it having a gene expression, something that was already in the gene code, like the faster rabbits are likely to escape the hawks, okay? But they already knew how to run. There were already some fast rabbits, and some are faster than others. But so, why did the rabbit ever grow wings? How about a machine gun? Shoot the hawk. That'd solve the problem. Can you please give some examples, not just SpongeBob imagination? Just imagine, boys and girls, millions of years of all these things being added. Where's the specifics? Show me one. Where's the best examples you know of anything adding new information that would change the gene code?
More likely to survive to have offspring, which will have that same mutation passed on to them, and over generations those genes become dominant. That's all it is. It's
over many generations those genes become dominant. I understand what you think evolution is going to do. I'm telling you, it's a fairy tale. It's not part of science. It's not observed. It's never been observed. None of this has been observed. This is all imagination. They all have to go back they say if you go back millions of years, first of all, you cannot go back millions of years, right? And secondly, there are not millions of years to go back to. The Earth cannot possibly be that old for lots of reasons. But that's why it's not part of science. What do we observe, study, test, demonstrate? Go ahead in the laboratory, make any animal or plant mutate in a beneficial way that will do what you're saying happen billions of times to change an amoeba to a human and a whale and a mosquito.
It's not gaining or losing anything. There's no conscious actor behind it. There's no one pushing things in a certain direction. There's not even like a certain direction that things are going in where we always lose or gain something. It's just a series of events. And so reading this sarcastic comment in the book and reading a lot of the comments from Kent's fans on my last few videos, I've kind of become aware that Kent Hovind and his fans don't understand the basics of how evolution happens.
I've heard that 30 times in the last 2 weeks. I think I do. I understand how you think evolution happens completely. It doesn't happen, Rachel. It doesn't happen at all.
Which is why I want to take a few moments at the beginning of this video to kind of jump into the science, go way back to basics, explain the process of evolution by natural selection as simply as possible, right down to the cellular level. This is complicated stuff. I can't cover every detail. There's a hell of a lot more here that I'm not.
A hell of a lot. First of all, hell would be a noun, okay? Why are you using it as, I guess, as adjective? And if you don't believe in hell, why do you use that word? I'm curious. Atheists often say things, like one guy said, thank God I'm an atheist. What?
Their favorite curse word is JC.
Yeah. They use God's name and Jesus' name as a curse word and talk about hell a hell of a lot more. What, Rachel, you don't believe in God. There's no hell in your theology.
Not covering. I'm basically covering this to like maybe an A-level biology standard, but there's a hell of a lot more I could talk about. We could go into more of the details about how these events like transcription and translation and everything actually happen. We could talk about that in more detail, but for simplicity's sake, I don't want to jump ahead too far and get into that kind of deep level just yet, because I think we need to explain the basics first. And so this is going to be a kind of oversimplified, basic explanation of how mutations arise.
The whole theory of evolution is oversimplified and basic and doesn't happen. You dream it. You're dreaming it happens.
What DNA is and how all this influences or leads to evolution by natural selection. Inside the nucleus of our cells and the cells of all living things, there are these little molecules called nucleotides. Nucleotides are the organic monomers that make up DNA and RNA. Nucleotides are made up of a phosphate group, a 5-carbon sugar, or a pentose sugar, some people call it, and a nitrogen-based.
Now, Rachel, do you believe these individual elements like the oxygen, the phosphorus, the hydrogen, did they come about? Was all of this stuff was squished into a dot smaller than a period on a page? All the molecules, how many molecules are there in the universe? A lot. This all came from a dot of nothing exploding. If you're an atheist, are you an atheist or are you an agnostic? You don't know. I don't think you can possibly be an atheist. I don't think that's a logical, I think it's a logical fallacy to claim to be an atheist. Anyway, so all these chemicals, which arrange themselves really in precise orders to form cool groups, happen by chance.
Base. In DNA, this base can either be thymine, adenine, guanine, or cytosine. For
Correct.
simplicity's sake, I'm leaving out the differences with RNA for now, but basically, the DNA of all living things is made up of nucleotides with these 4 bases. It doesn't matter if it's a single cell, or a plant cell, or a fish, or a complex mammal. Everything is made up of these 4 basic monomers. The basis for all living things is fundamentally the same. And what I want you to remember now is that these monomers aren't in themselves living, which means that the basis for all living things is a non-living thing. So when people say, how can you get a living thing from non-living? We are all made up of non-living things. The boundary between living and non-living is kind of complicated and cloudy and messy, but...
Now hold it. Rachel, did you know a car or a jet airplane is made up of all non-moving parts? Isn't it? All the parts on the car are non-moving, but they arrange them together so that they can move in the car, bicycle, or airplane. So to say that all the parts of a living organism are non-living, well, that's technically correct. Just like all the parts of a car are non-moving. But it takes an intelligent designer to put them together in such a way that they can work together and move the car. Duh. Same thing with all these chemicals, atoms, and cells in your body. They had to have some kind of designer to put them together where they are living.
Again, that's a topic for a whole other video.
Yeah.
So the phosphate group of one nucleotide will form a covalent bond with the sugar group of another nucleotide, and so this ends up forming a big long string of nucleotides. Base pairs that...
You don't know why you added the word pairs. Rachel, it's in the drawing. I mean, they always talk about base pairs. It's no big deal. Don't be correcting yourself on that. I think it's fine. Most people understand.
aren't attached to anything will then usually form hydrogen bonds with the other base pairs of other nucleotides, and then they, as they match up, kind of like form the covalent bonds with the ones next to them, and you end up with these 2 strands of nucleotides attached at the sides by covalent bonds, in the middle by hydrogen bonds. These bases kind of pair up, so guanine always bonds with cytosine, and thymine always bonds with adenine.
So you got CATG, the 4 bases here. The T and the A always go together. The C and the G always bond together with a hydrogen bond. This is correct, Rachel. It's pretty amazing too, isn't it? Wait till you see how they replicate. And your body loses 20 to 50 billion cells every day. You got to replace them. Everybody, every day.
These 2 connected strands of nucleotides are DNA, and DNA can be hundreds or thousands or millions of nucleotides long. Within this millions long chain, stretches of these nucleotides can have specific functions, usually to do with building proteins, but not always. And these specific kind of areas of the chain are called genes. While it's easy to make a claim like there's a gene for blue eyes, for example, the gene itself isn't creating an entire blue eye. One gene might just be responsible for creating the pigment that goes into our irises, while another gene is responsible for creating the muscle in our eye, another gene is responsible for building the lens, and so on. There's a lot more that goes into kind of like building a part of an organic living thing than just one single gene.
I know, Rachel, doesn't it make you want to just meet the guy who designed it? How many have been to the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola? Isn't that cool to see the early airplanes, you know, and the changes they've made? I love going to that place, you know. Don't you just want to admire the guy who designed it? His name is God. I can introduce you to him. Rachel, come on over. We'll introduce you. Yes, sir.
I just think it's just frustrating to watch them explain how the structure works and how it's put together, but they'll never say how it got to that point, you know. Oh, these, you know, they won't say how it created that structure. They're just like, this is how the structure works. This is
Right.
how DNA is put together.
That would be like me saying, taking the battery out of this thing and dissecting a battery and saying, look, this is made of natural components, you know, in the battery or in the plastic or in the buttons, you know, the switcher, the contacts. Yeah, I could probably take it apart and explain quite a bit about it, but that doesn't mean nobody designed it. They just don't get it, and I don't know how to help them. I've tried. 182 debates, haven't led any of them to the Lord. I do it because it helps the audience, but
Usually it's lots of genes working together to produce different components that make up us and who we are. It's nowhere near as simple as just one gene for one eye, one gene for arms, one gene for lungs. It's nothing like that. Far more complex.
Yes, complex.
far more complex. Don't you get it? It's so complicated it had to happen by chance.
Some genes are long, some genes are short, some genes create really complex proteins, some genes create really small, simple proteins. Through transcription, DNA is converted to mRNA, and then mRNA works with ribosomes to create proteins. Every 3 bases in the mRNA.
Now, Rachel, what he's about to show is what you are claiming you believe happened by chance. Think about that just for a minute, please.
So look, DNA is a good place to start, the double helix molecule we always talk about. This is a scientifically accurate depiction of DNA created by Drew Barry at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research. If you unwind the 2 strands, you can see that each has a sugar phosphate backbone connected to the sequence of nucleic acid base pairs, known by the letters A, T, G, and C. Now the strands run in opposite directions, which is important when you go to copy DNA. Copying DNA is one of the first steps in cell division. Here, the 2 strands of DNA are being unwound and separated by the tiny blue molecular machine called helicase. Helicase literally spins as fast as a jet engine.
Are you listening to that? Helicase is spinning, unwinding the DNA to get ready to replicate it, and it's spinning as fast as a jet engine.
The strand of DNA on the right has its complementary strand assembled continuously, but the other strand is more complicated because it runs in the opposite direction, so it must be looped out with its complementary strand assembled in reverse, section by section. At the end of this process, you have 2 identical DNA molecules, each one a few centimeters long, but just a couple nanometers wide. So to prevent the DNA from becoming a tangled mess, it is wrapped around proteins called histones, forming a nucleosome. These nucleosomes are bundled together into a fiber known as chromatin, which is further looped and coiled to form a chromosome, one of the largest molecular structures in your body.
And you will have 46 of these in each of your 100 trillion cells.
That's infinity.
You can actually see chromosomes under a microscope in dividing cells. Only then do they take on their characteristic shape. Otherwise, the DNA is more strewn inside the nucleus. The process of dividing a cell takes around an hour in mammals, so this footage is from a time lapse. You can see how the chromosomes line up on the equator of the cell. Now, when everything is right, they are pulled apart into the two new daughter cells, each one containing an identical copy of DNA. Now, simple as this looks, the process is incredibly complicated and requires even more fascinating molecular machines to accomplish it. So let's look at a single chromosome. One chromosome consists of two sausage-shaped chromatids, containing the identical copies of DNA made earlier. Each chromatid is attached to microtubule fibers, which guide and help align them in the correct position. The microtubules are connected to the chromatid at the kinetochore, here colored red. The kinetochore consists of hundreds of different proteins working together to achieve multiple objectives. In fact, it's one of the most sophisticated molecular mechanisms inside your body. The kinetochore is central to the successful separation of the chromatids. It creates a dynamic connection between the chromosome and the microtubules. For a reason no one's yet been able to figure out, the microtubules are constantly being built at one end and deconstructed at the other. While the chromosome is still getting ready, the kinetochore sends out a chemical stop signal to the rest of the cell, shown here by the red molecules, basically saying this chromosome is not yet ready to divide. The kinetochore also mechanically senses tension. When the tension is just right and the position and attachment are correct, all the proteins get ready, shown here by turning green. At this point, the stop signal broadcasting system is not switched off. Instead, it is literally carried away from the kinetochore down the microtubules by a dynein motor. That's the walking guy. This is really what it looks like. It has long legs, so
It has long legs so it can step over the stuff that's going the other way down the same tubule. See, for millions of years, they all crashed and they all died. It didn't work till they finally figured out grow longer legs.
it can avoid obstacles and step over the kinesins, molecular motors that walk in the opposite direction.
Personally, I'm astounded by these tiny molecular machines.
Personally, I want to say praise God. Isn't it great to know the God who did this?
And what are those little tiny things made of themselves, you know? How small can you go?
How small can you go? Even the atoms have all these electrons whizzing around the nucleus, and don't those electrons ever get tired?
How they're able to routinely and faithfully execute their functions billions of times over inside your body at this exact instant. I'm also amazed by the scientists who were able to work out how this happens in such detail that we could create realistic depictions of them like you saw in the animations in this video. But perhaps the most amazing thing is just how much is left to be discovered, like figuring out how exactly the chromatids are pulled to opposite ends of the cell. There is still so much that we don't quite know. You know, what I find exciting is that in science fiction, for decades, we've been writing about tiny nanobots that will be injected into our bloodstreams that can heal us. But what this suggests, the existence of these tiny molecular machines inside us, it suggests that there isn't a physical limit that would prevent that. And so I think it's pretty likely that in future, we will be able to develop our own tiny molecular machines that...
Hold it. Man is going to be able to develop tiny molecular machines. But yet when you see a molecular machine that already exists, nobody developed that one. Rachel. Somebody developed that one too.
that'll be able to repair our bodies better than they can repair themselves.
Better?
Oh yeah. Ye shall be as gods. We're going to keep improving. Anyway, that's as far as we can get tonight. Rachel, thank you so much. The sales of my book has skyrocketed since you started picking on it. It really is a good book. I don't think you've dented it at all as far as picking on things. We'll get into more of the DNA later. But if there are similarities between our DNA and other animals' DNA, what would that prove? Common designer.
Common building materials?
Or common building, or common need. Common function. We have 2 eyes. The donkeys have 2 eyes. What does that prove? 2 eyes gives you binocular vision. You don't bang into the trees. You don't when you walk around. We have 2 ears. What does that do? It gives you depth perception with hearing, being able to hear which direction the sound is coming from. I think it's designed. I think it's really smart, like really smart. Anyway, I'd like to introduce you to my Lord and Savior, Rachel. He loves you. Sorry for picking on you a little bit here, but you're damaging other people's faith, and I got to stop that, okay? Not that nothing personal against you. It's just I think what you're teaching is wrong and damaging. Certainly not science, and we want to help. So thank you for reading my book. Rachel, when you're done with this one, would you please pick on some of my other books? Because it really, really helps us sell them. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.